Hi again, Dan here. As a proposal consultant, I'm often called into a firm because, as my clients say, my people can't write. Sometimes it's even more specific than that. Those engineers can't write. I always nod and smile knowingly, but I'm thinking, no, that's not really true. They can write. They just don't know how to tailor their writing for proposals. And I firmly believe this. I can't remember a single time when I've run across writing that is so bad that I've thought to myself, this person can't write. The problem is, people usually use the same style of writing for every single document they prepare. Proposals are different critters. That's what the tutorials in this section, Write for Readability, are all about. How to tailor your proposal writing to make it as easy as possible for the evaluators to get through your proposal. Because if they can't read it, if they get hung up on long sentences and dense paragraphs, they will stop reading. That's when you start on the glide path to losing. Actually, it's more like a nosedive. So let's get to it. As usual, we'll start off with what you'll learn in this tutorial. First, I'll remind you about how readability fits into CPR. Then I'll tell you 3 things you must understand about the readers of your proposal. And then finally, I'll summarize with the characteristics of readability. Okay then, onward. I hope you had the chance to view the tutorial called Give Your Proposal CPR. In it, I talked about the 3 most important elements of winning proposals. The first was compliance, the second, persuasion, and the third, readability. All 3 are important, of course. If your proposal is not compliant, after all, the evaluators will deduct points right off the bat. If it isn't persuasive, filled with evidence of your competence and the benefits you bring to the customer, the evaluator will not see you as adding value. But to my mind, readability is the most important. If you are compliant and persuasive, but your proposal is hard to read, then all that compliance and all that persuasion is wasted. The evaluators will not spend time wading through long sentences, $20 words, and impenetrable paragraphs filled with disjointed ideas. They will simply not work that hard to find the value. If your writing is hard to read, they won't read it. That's about it in a nutshell. In fact, let me say a few more things about evaluators. In the first place, evaluators are reading for one reason only, to score your proposal. This is important to understand. They are not reading for enjoyment. They are not reading to learn anything new. The only reason they are reading your proposal is to judge your capability to do the work according to a set of criteria that was established for this effort only, for this proposal only. Also, remember that they're not only reading your proposal. If it's a competitive bid, they are reading others that will look a lot like yours, and they are only reading them to assess a score as well. Therefore, you must help them as much as you can to score the proposal, ideally in your favor. Number 2, evaluating proposals is not fun. I make it a point to seek out people who have served as evaluators and get their opinions about the job. In my unscientific surveys, I found that nearly all the people who have served as evaluators did not like doing it. Why? Well, in the first place, it's boring. They have to read numerous proposals, all talking about exactly the same thing, all written by firms that pretty much have the same kind of products or services and offer the same kind of quality. Plus, they often have to do it in addition to their real jobs, which makes it an extra burden because they are still on the hook to do their real jobs. And it's hard work to analyze, make decisions about scores, and justify them in writing. It's just plain hard work. So, you have to understand that you have an audience who is not really looking forward to reading your proposal. They want to get through it as fast as possible. When your writing keeps them from achieving that goal, they will be even less happy with you, and that ain't good. Finally, evaluators are people just like you. These people are intelligent professionals, very often college educated, and fully capable of reading and understanding the English language. They know bad writing when they see it, just like you do. And they get as ticked off as you do at having to encounter and get through bad writing. So, as you review your proposal for readability, take some time to imagine yourself as the reader. Would you be pleased to write what you've just written? Or would it make you say, can't these people write? Okay, now let's take a look at an example from a proposal. Pause the video and take a few moments to read this paragraph. The first question I have for you is, how many times did you have to reread this to get through it? Second question is, when did you stop reading it and start to skim? And the third question is, did you get to the end at all, or did you just give up? Most readers would simply give up and move on to the next paragraph. String together a few of these, and pretty soon the evaluators will simply give up on reading your proposal and they'll start to skim it. And when they do that, they miss all the goodness you have to offer in your proposal. But even worse, many evaluators will simply assume that you really aren't competent to meet the requirements of the job you're bidding on because you aren't competent enough to write a simple sentence that is readable. Oh, by the way, you did notice that this was just one sentence, didn't you? Okay, there aren't a lot of sentences as bad as this one in most proposals, but believe me, there are a lot more than you think. And they don't have to be this bad to be bad enough. They can be this bad. Again, stop the video and take a few moments to read through this paragraph, and we'll talk about it in a minute. On the face of it, this doesn't look too bad. Oh, there's some passive voice here. Oh, by the way, I talk about how to spot and get rid of passive voice in the tutorial called Use Active Voice. Check it out. Reading on, I come to a halt here. That's because there should be another will here, will outline, because there's too much distance between this and the first will here. I have to stop and start again when I realize that. Then I discovered that this sentence is way too long, and I sort of lose the bubble by the time I get to the end. I have to go back and reread it. So that's twice now that I've had to start over, and I'm beginning to lose patience. Then I hit conceptual sketches will accompany guidelines, and I pull up short again. We would never say in our spoken conversation that sketches accompany the guidelines. It's an odd sort of wording that intrudes on the reader's ability to let the words flow into his mind. Rather, we'd probably say something like, guidelines include sketches. So why not write that? That unusual wording causes me to stutter a bit to figure it out. But the real problem is in this whole concept. I have trouble visualizing the relationships of the landscape, environmental edges, and development parcels. I mean, what are these things? Oh, development parcels I get, sorta, but environmental edges? And what kind of interrelationship could exist between a development parcel and the landscape? The word interrelationship implies interaction. Is that what the writer meant? Or did she mean to simply say relationship? I'm willing to concede that the evaluator of this proposal knows what all these things are and can perhaps make sense of it all. But that doesn't make up for the fact that the reader has had to stop reading and restart a number of times because of the clumsiness of the writing in the first 3 sentences. The last sentence is okay except for the passive voice here. But in my view, it's more than likely that by the time the reader gets to this sentence, he's already given up on trying to read the paragraph. Look, I know this is a pretty detailed analysis of why this paragraph doesn't work, and I don't expect all of the people who write proposal sections to be English majors. God forbid. But what I am saying is that most professionals who write proposals are competent thinkers and, by and large, competent writers. No one expects great literature in a proposal, but what we do expect is ideas to come through clearly, because if they don't, your score will reflect this. Oh, by the way, in a couple of minutes I'll show you how you revise this paragraph and make it more readable. But first I want to share with you the 3 main characteristics of readability. Your writing must be easy to read and follow. This means you should use language that is simple and familiar, and you should make the sentences short and to the point. Next, your writing must be efficient. Eliminate extra words that clutter up the writing and get in the way of clarifying your main points. And finally, your writing must be easy to understand. You need to explain concepts and language that is appropriate to the context and to the readers. All this adds up to what I call a clear style. I think this kind of writing is important in all the documents you prepare on the job, but it's essential in proposals. That's because there's a lot more at stake with proposals than with any other kind of writing you do on the job. All right, that's about it for an overview of readability. I have posted other tutorials on readability as well. Check them out. They'll give you more details on specific things you can do to improve your readability. Okay, I told you I would show you a revision of the second example, so take a look. The one on top is the original. The one on the bottom is the revision. Pause the video and take a look at the difference. I'll read here. Michael Van Housen will prepare preliminary development guidelines. They will outline the key components of how we will integrate new development as well as enhance existing development. The guidelines will include conceptual sketches that show the relationship between the landscape, the environmental edges, and the development parcels. Once you approve the preliminary guidelines, we will refine them to conform to other Delta guidelines, formats, and zoning/OCP regulations. It really wasn't hard to fix this, and I think we can all agree it's a lot easier to read. You can always send questions and comments via the form on the page, and don't forget to check out the rest of the videos. And until next time, happy proposaling.